I decided to make a video on a topic that I myself and a lot of other people don't realize is surprisingly fascinating: the weather. I talked about it in my End Times video, but I don't think I gave it enough credit. The weather has some insane amounts of unique details and facts to it, so I've compiled some nice research I've done about different facets of the weather. Here we go! Hurricanes are the boss fights of real life. As I said in my End Times video, a lot of the weather conditions here really hurt people's lives, and I don't intend to make light of that. Rather, just point out some interesting facts about the weather and poke a little fun at the hypotheticals. A hurricane can reach up to 157 miles per hour, or 252 2/3 kilometers per hour. That is 5.8 Usain Bolts. It is the equivalent of stacking 5.8 Usain Bolts on top of each other. That's how math works. Did you know that toilets don't actually flush in different directions in different hemispheres? That's a common misconception. But you know what does turn in the opposite direction? Hurricanes. That's right. So that means hurricanes are nature's toilets, as we should have expected. I mean, it's scientifically proven that there is a huge flushing sound right before any hurricane appears. Back to the speed. That 157 number is surprisingly massive. I looked up 157 miles per hour car to see what model maxed out at that speed for comparison. What I got instead was a series of stories involving a race car driver flipping over at that speed, a man on his bike setting Britain's speed camera record, and a North Carolina man reaching that speed in a police car chase. Amount of rain is 27,154 gallons per inch. 27,154 gallons is enough to fill 27,154 milk cartons. That's insane. 646 barrels of rainwater. And guess how much of an Olympic swimming pool that is? 4%. Wait, really 4%? Jesus, Olympic swimming pools are big. 27,000 gallons of rain is a crap ton of water, and that's just per inch. There's an average of 30 inches of rainfall in America, so a total of 810,000 gallons of water. That is more than an Olympic swimming pool. Nearly 1 million gallons of water across the United States every year. Mawsynram is a place in India that is recorded as the rainiest place on Earth, and it gets 467 inches of rainfall each year. That's about 39 feet of water. Combine that with a 27,000 gallon per inch, and you end up getting a whopping 12.6 million gallons, 19 whole swimming pools, and approximately 7,800 Usain Bolts. Amount of electricity in a lightning bolt is 1 billion volts, enough for a 60-watt light bulb for a month. And enough for 200 million phones, I think. Admittedly, it's a little difficult to do the math with electricity. There's volts, watts, joules, and amps. It's all very annoying with the numbers and the BS. Just measure its shockiness. This is a 7 shocky, this is a 4 shocky, etc. 1 billion volts, or so, per bolt. But how many bolts in a storm? We need to know the bolts to count the volts, because how many bolts and how many volts give us the total volts by counting the bolts and multiplying the volts. God, I hate electricity terms. There are roughly 25 million lightning strikes every year. Doing the math, that is 25 quadrillion volts. 5 quadrillion phones. That's half as many Android phones as there are in California. It is scientifically estimated that Earth experiences 100 lightning bolts per second. Christ, it's like Earth is on electroshock therapy. God knows it's certainly falling apart, so hey, maybe they're prescription thunderstorms. bioelectricity is a fun comparison to make. The average body works off of 0.1 to 1 volt of energy for any action, and an average of about 0.7-ish. This times the number of cells leaves us around 3.4 trillion volts. So not only is Earth receiving an annual of 5 quadrillion phones of electricity, but also 7,000 Usain Bolts. Oh my god, Usain Bolt, that is a fantastic accidental pun. Normally, a tsunami is no higher than 10 feet, and they could even go up to 30 to 70 feet, but more historic tsunamis can reach up to 1,720 feet maximum from a tsunami in Alaska. A height of a few inches is actually common. Wait, how is a few inches of a tsunami different from an average wave? Tiny splashes coming up from a river, and people just yell, "That's a tsunami!" A splash from a faucet, tsunami. When a toilet flushes, tsunami. A height of 720 feet for tsunamis means that the highest tsunami ever is taller than the Empire State Building, which I can't show in this game, so I'll just show a random building. It's also much taller than the Bank Tower, which I can show. It's hard for me to imagine the height of things so big, so I usually try to imagine a stack of humans relative to the object. And if the average human is 6 foot, then that's 287 people stacked on top of each other. It's also 21 Olympic swimming pool lengths tall. With that much height, it's hard to imagine that only 1,720 feet is only 268 Usain Bolts. The depth of a sinkhole is, at maximum, almost 1,000 feet. The Sancha Yongle Blue Hole is the deepest sinkhole in history, at 1,000 feet deep. An entire kilometer. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. 1/3 of an entire kilometer. You could cross that distance in a minute at 180 kilometers per hour. Sinkholes can actually be caused by hurricanes, so apparently an ocean tornado isn't enough of a problem. The ground has to literally fall apart as well. I realized that I didn't actually know how sinkholes were formed. They are formed by the water underground reducing the minerals and having everything above it rest on a balance of dirt that can't carry it. Then rainfall makes it all go to hell, literally. 1/3 of a kilometer deep is very deep. It seems that should have been noticed earlier. Oh wait, this happened in the middle of the ocean. I can forgive that. Wait, a giant hole appeared in the ocean, and then no one thought that giant monsters were gonna start appearing? Get some preparation skills, people. 1/3 of a kilometer deep? That is a total of 170 Usain Bolts. That's a monster portal, man. There's a Siberian city with a mining hole in it. That's one of the biggest man-made pits in history. It has a diameter of 1.2 kilometers and is 525 feet deep. On top of that, there's a city built around it. People live and go to work driving right next to a massive hole that will, once again, probably launch giant monsters at us. Apparently the hole is so big that it can even suck up helicopters due to air suction or something like that, but it's never been proven. Well, time to buy a ticket to Siberia. Wait, what does this have to do with the weather? An earthquake is caused when enough stress in the earth breaks apart at the seams, splitting into a huge ravine. The vibrations of an earthquake are around 20 hertz, whatever that means. If you thought that the sinkholes were bad when it comes to monsters, who's to say that earthquakes aren't just the monsters waking up? I'm sure you could just Google it, but go ahead. See if you can understand any of the terms seismologists use, and tell me that monsters isn't an easier explanation. Most people think of earthquakes as measured as around a 4 or a 5 on whatever scale they use, but in 1960, there was a Valdivia earthquake that measured at around 9.5. Earthquake waves can be measured in velocity, usually in terms of kilometers per second, with an average of 4 kilometers per second, around 165 to 497 Usain Bolts of speed. The earthquakes can often cause tsunamis, so just like how the hurricanes cause sinkholes, two topics of conversation here lead into each other. You would think I would have structured the list of topics better to allow for better segues. Weather isn't just a thing here on Earth. Many other planets have far more interesting weather patterns than here. Shocker, places without humans are more interesting than with them. Who would have guessed? Venus has an average temperature of about 847 degrees Fahrenheit. Mars is full of dust storms, and Pluto has the weird weather condition of not being cared enough about by NASA. I was unfortunately too old when I learned that Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus are all gas and not solid. The idea that you can fly through half of the planets is insane to me. There are other planets beyond our solar system that have insane winds that will rip your flesh off, and acid rain that will rip your flesh off, and Usain Bolts that will rip your flesh off. The universe is infinite, alright? It must exist somewhere. With how insane the weather can be on Earth, it's important to remember that our planet is astronomically boring in comparison to others. After all, our planet is the only one boring enough for humans to show up on it.